What's up, y'all? It's your boy AJ, and this is AJ Reacts 2. And before we get the review started, I want to let you know to head down, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. And today we're going to be talking about the new film, Knives Out, coming out just in time for Thanksgiving. This is a whodunit film. We haven't seen many of those lately on the big screen. Usually we see these on television shows or whatever, but you know, this is a big production. And you got some big names in this cast. Toni Collette, Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans, Daniel Craig, and a lot more. We're gonna talk about things I liked about it, things that were so-so, and things I didn't really like about it. So let's go. There are so many times in this film I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great movie to come out around Thanksgiving. The family just fights, and it just reminds me of, you know, just typical families that like just fight about petty things, and like there were several scenes like that in the film. Now, getting on to the story of the film, it was superbly written, and I'm not gonna give anything away. This is a spoiler-free review because the film doesn't come out until, I think it comes out tomorrow. But I actually got to see it as a pre-screening last week. My wife got some free tickets from Yelp, and they actually gave us this awesome collectible ticket, and there it is. Very cool. So yeah, back to the story. The story was so well written. There were things in it that kind of made me like, was that the best choice? But overall, man, it was great. If you don't know what it's about a wealthy family. The granddad dies. It looks like a suicide, but it's like some fishy stuff going on. So we don't know if it's a suicide or a murder. And then we kind of get to know things about it. And, you know, everybody in the house is a suspect. Everyone in the family is a suspect. So like just kind of seeing those things unravel was very exciting, kept you on the edge of your seat. I think this was one of the best whodunit films that I've seen personally, and it kind of like had some references to Clue, because that is like probably the most classic whodunit, and it's a great film. Tim Curry, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I think it came out like in the 80s or 90s, something like that. Like, it's kind of old school, but it is a classic whodunit. But what I will say about the story, something that I thought was kind of about the story, there were certain times in the film where it would kind of go into a flashback, but we didn't really know which flashback it was. It was a few flashbacks, so it was kind of hard to tell. There were a few parties. There was like a funeral party and then a birthday party, and you didn't really know which was which. Me anyway, I couldn't really tell some of the times. But overall, I get the film, I understand it, but there were some times that part was a little confusing. Moving on to the characters. The characters were so well written, I feel like, because we have this family, right? And there is so many things that go into a family. There's so many personalities that go into it. There's so many characteristics, and when you see those, you know, and this is kind of like a dysfunctional family. And Daniel Craig, everybody knows that he is a British guy. He has a British accent, and he's kind of known for that with 007. He's kind of known for that. But in this film, he has like this southern drawl that is just, it's so obvious that he is forcing this. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just kind of obvious. It's a little distracting at first, but once you get into it, I really enjoyed his southern drawl and like just kind of how he, what he did with it. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Ana de Armas. She's probably the main character of this film, and she wasn't even part of the family, but she did such a great job. The actress did such a great job. I really enjoyed her performance. Now, Lakeith Stanfield, he's one of my favorite actors. He is one of my favorite actors of all time, and I felt like he didn't really get his chance to shine in this film. I thought he was gonna be like one of the main detectives, and someone who, you know, to figure out things and, you know, like that. But he kind of was in the background, and I didn't really care for that. I felt like he needed to be more aware of what was going on, to find more clues. He kind of was just there after a while. Like, he was kind of the head detective, but Daniel Craig took over. His character took over. Daniel Craig was a private investigator, and he kind of took over the case. I feel like Lakeith Stanfield his character should have been like front and center, figuring out the clues just as much as Daniel Craig's character. But I digress. Catherine Langford was in this film, and she's mostly known for 13 Reasons Why, the show on Netflix. And I haven't seen her in anything besides that show, and to see her in this role, I enjoyed her performance. It just kind of was a little lackluster because of how much of a dominant character she was in 13 Reasons Why. It was kind of refreshing to see her in a different role than Hannah Baker. Jamie Lee Curtis, phenomenal as usual. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. My favorite Jamie Lee Curtis film is actually Freaky Friday. I'm not saying that this was a good film, but I really enjoyed that film. I grew up on that film, but Jamie Lee Curtis is always really good, so kudos to her. Great performance. And Chris Evans, if you want to go see a Chris Evans movie with very little Chris Evans, go see Knives Out, because this movie, half of the movie, he wasn't in it, and then the second half of the movie, he was kind of like the main character, but it still didn't feel like really enough of Chris Evans. This is the first film that I've seen with him outside of Captain America after Endgame. So I think this might be his first role after Endgame. It was cool to see him not as Captain America, kind of see him as this snarky guy, somebody that is not a goody two-shoes. He's just got the stigma towards the family, so I really enjoy his performance as well. There wasn't any characters that I didn't like their performance. There were some that were lackluster. I feel like they should have been brought out more, but there was no performance in this film that I disliked. Now let's go on to the last category, cinematography. When I go see films, I try to focus on what they do with the atmosphere, how they capture everything and make it part of the story. Most of the movie was filmed inside this big mansion, and it's a very old mansion, and most of the characters are in this mansion for the majority of the film. There are some parts where they go outside of the mansion, and but when they're in the mansion, there are so many artifacts and so many like antiques, and they really focus on like the atmosphere, and it brings a lot to the film. It brings a whole lot to the film. Overall, I will give this film an 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed this film. It kept me on the edge of my seats. There were not many dull moments in this film. I know it's gonna remind you of your family. And you made it to the end of my review. Thank you for listening to me rant. If you wanna win some cool Marvel stuff, I got a giveaway going on. All you have to do is like, subscribe, and share on social media. Make sure you tag me so I know that you shared it. And you can win a box full of Marvel awesomeness. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.